Hello, welcome to Monday Mapping with Laurel. In this group, we talk about body mapping. So, for those of you who have never joined us before, welcome. For those of you who have regularly come, I'm excited you're here. Thank you so much for coming back. If you're catching this as the replay, hashtag replay in the comments. So, today we are going to be talking about arms as well as I call them squirrels on tattoos, because where your tattoo is tells me far more about what you were going through than what the tattoo is. So we're going to talk about those things. For those of you who are new to body mapping, first, what is it? Hey, Heidi. So body mapping is a combination of body language, psychology, energy work, multiple studies on the body, but I took it all together. And for 20 years, I have stared at people. I've analyzed people. I have a degree in psychology and a second degree in communications with a minor in human development. And I was a cosmetologist for 17 years. I stood and stared at people. And then I had the opportunity to teach anatomy and physiology. And it was fascinating to me because every part of your physical body has a purpose. And to me, a human equals a mind, a body, and a spirit. And so if every part of your physical body had a purpose, I started to wonder if there was a way that the mind or the soul spoke through the body. So I started researching and I compiled everything and I put it all together. And what I discovered is that the universe left a map on your body. And some of this map comes in the form of symptoms to tell us things that we need to improve with our health, emotional things we need to deal with, and other things are personality traits or characteristics that you have. But this is the beautiful part about body mapping. It's all done with measurements on your body. My thumb measures my eye, but my thumb will never accurately measure anyone else's eye. So as soon as I compare myself to anyone else, I'm wrong about who they are and I'm wrong about who I am. So today's measurement with the arm, with your arm, if you were to take and bend it at the elbow so that your wrist comes over your shoulder. Oh, and this, I'm going to take this off because it has a weird seam. I didn't think about that. Okay, so don't use your shirt as a measurement because like that last sweater I was wearing, the shoulder seam was like all the way down here. So don't use clothes. They're a really bad measurement. Use your actual. So palm up so you can see. Bend all the way. And can you see how my shoulder and my wrist line up? So what that tells me, so if your elbow is level with your shoulder and your wrist and your shoulder line up, that means that these bones are the same size. So joint to joint, okay? For some of you, when you measure, I can't really shorten my arm, like your wrist might come, to the middle of your forearm, but your proportions won't be on. So the other way to know when you stand, sorry, you're gonna lose my head, your natural waist, which is where you bend, in that bend, that is where your elbow pit should match the bend. So if your elbow pit, and yes, that's a made up word, if your elbow pit matches your bend of your natural waistline, that's another way that you can tell if your arm is proportionate or out of proportion. So why does this matter? Well, your arm as a whole is your ability to lift others. So if you were just to take from shoulder to wrist, your arm, that is your natural ability to lift others. So the stronger your arm, then, hi Heather, oh my goodness, I miss you. So the stronger your arm, the stronger your ability to lift others. Now your arm is really cool because your arm has striated muscles, meaning that they have muscles that can actually change in size and in shape depending on what kind of exercises you're doing. So your arm is one of the places on your body that you can change, both with mind and with physical movement. So we'll get to that in just a second. So the other part of this, that as you are looking at your arm, you have two parts to your arm. You have from your wrist to your elbow pit, and then you have from your elbow to your shoulder. So the way that I keep these straight, so your arm as a whole is your ability to lift self, to lift others, to lift people. That could mean lifting their spirits. That could mean helping them with their burdens. That could mean your ability to reach out and inspire people. So the longer your arm is as a whole, so what's his name? Michael Phelps, the swimmer. He has a very disproportionate body. He has short legs, really long torso, super long like gorilla arms. So he actually has the natural ability to have far-reaching effects and connections on people, where people that have shorter arms like to have their connections in a close inner circle. So they tend to have like 3 or 4 really close friends through their whole life, where people who have a really long reach tend to be those who reach out towards others. Now, here's the cool part. You can't compare yourself to other people. You have to measure your body against your body. So when you when you bend, do your joints match? When you bend on the side, does your elbow pit match your waistline? Because you could always have short sleeves because your arms may be longer than the average woman or longer than the current style. But when you measure against your own body, you could actually discover that you are proportionate. So when your arms are longer than your body, that is what tells you that you have a long reach versus a proportionate reach versus a short reach. So so this is why I say don't compare yourself to clothing, don't compare yourself to other women, measure. If you have never in your entire life noticed that your arms were long or short or whatever, don't overthink this. Just measure and see. Some of you are like, I don't have the flexibility anymore to do that. I can't get my arm that high. Okay, well, the other way you can do it is the hang loose sign. Well, that's a little bit short. I don't want to confuse you. Do your best to do it this way. Otherwise, you can actually take your shoe because your foot also goes from your wrist to your elbow. So put a shoe here and then put a shoe here, assuming that you have the correct size shoes. But that is another way that you could measure this. So with your arms, your lower arm it has strong muscles, but those muscles aren't as strong as your bicep. So your lower arm is your ability to lift yourself. This is where we deal with all of our self stuff. Your bicep is your ability to lift others. So the way I remember that is that the stronger muscles can lift more people. The smaller muscles lift me. Okay, so here's the other part to your arm. So the back of your arm, that's your public self. The inside of your arm, you know, the part that never tans, that doesn't really have a lot of hair, that you see all of your veins, that's your private self. So I have an extra inch or so they don't touch. Okay, exactly. I was thinking the same thing for my arms. Cool. So is it your lower arm or your upper arm? Because for some people, if their lower arm is the portion of their arm that's longer, when they are being their truest self, it's really easy for them to connect and reach out. Where if your lower arm is shorter, you tend to be someone who hides from vulnerability. You only speak when you're in a comfortable situation. You have what I call a party self, like you have a self that people know, but it's not really you. Where if it's your upper arm, you are more likely to extend yourself in a crowd if your upper arm is longer, versus if your upper arm is shorter, you are more likely to be the person that sits there and stares at everyone and then has the perfect answer at the end of it. So with your public self, that would be the hairy part of your arm. Hair, someone asked this question, hair, regardless of where it is a filter or a protection. Physiologically, skin and hair help regulate temperature. They keep dust and germs off our bodies. Hair is a very crucial part to our safety. So anywhere on your body that you have dark hair, thick hair, coarse hair, that is a part where your brain and body have decided we need more protection here. It's not just for aesthetics. So on the top part of your arm, where you have that hair, which is an extra filter or an extra protection, that's your public self. The private self is the part where you can see the veins. It's usually softer. It has vellus hair, which is the soft fuzzy hair. It's not as protected, but you have an entire body that guards it. So the inside of your arm is private. The back side of your arm is public. Now this is why this matters. When you have symptoms, say you have a rash, and the rash shows up on the public side of your arm. Who is irritating you? What is irritating you? Don't talk to me about food. Don't talk to me about allergies. It is an emotional irritation. Yes, it was triggered by something physiological, but it showed up on your ability to lift yourself around other people. So what scenario or person is irritating you so bad that it's showing up on your skin? Okay, well, what if it is in your private self, your private side? This is usually inner talk. This is usually you're irritated with yourself or someone who's in your intimate circle. Think lover, think parent, think child, think best friend. Inner circle, because this is your private self. So people that only know things about you that only a few people know about you, versus what the world sees. Who I am, what I let the world see. Okay? So when you have irritation on the inside of your arm, that is closed circle. And it is affecting your ability to lift yourself because it's on the lower part of your arm. Okay, upper part of your arm. This is your ability. It's your stronger muscle. It's your ability to lift others. But really, most of you want to know about this. You want to know about your tricep. Okay, well, your upper arm is also your ability to have capacity. And when you take capacity and add it together with your ability to lift others, if you have ever heard the phrase, I took them under my wing. If you are someone who is constantly trying to save or fix other people, you are kind of like you're the house in the neighborhood that all of the kids who are fighting with their parents hang out at. You're the aunt that people call because they just need a shoulder to cry on. You're the person that takes everyone under their wing. Your body will help you develop wings. Okay? Because you're taking people under your wing and your body goes, wait, we don't have wings. If we really need to shelter, nurture, and provide for all these people, we need a larger arm. So here's the difference. If you are conscientiously in an industry or a service that you know you're building people, you will actually have a desire to do more of a weightlifting or a toning to make your arm lean and strong. If you just have a savior complex and you're going to shelter and care for every little person who needs you, you're going to get a wing. So you decide. Are you going to consciously empower others? That helps you build strength. Or are you going to bring everybody in under your wing and shelter them from everything? Because then your body's going to create wings. There's a question. What would you say about sores all over the arm? I have a son who has sores all over his arms, inner and outer. Bingo, wings, see? Okay, so sores all over the arm. What kind of sores? Are they sores that have been infected? Are they picking because he's picking at himself because he doesn't trust his ability to lift himself or others? A lot of people who have insecurities, they don't trust their leadership. Oh, thank you, Kathy. People who are not really trusting their leadership, they will pick at themselves. Um, they'll pop the little white. They're like white heads. Really, what it is gluten buildup on the back of your arms. It looks like chicken skin. They'll pick at themselves, and they will usually pick at their arms. So, what kind of sores? I need something more than that. It'll take her a minute to answer that. So, okay. So the other parts of your arm. This is your ability to lift yourself. This is your ability to lift others. So this is your private. This is how you act in small circles. This is how you act in public circles. That's it. He's picking at himself. Okay, that was my first thought when he started. Okay, so it is very specific. It's his ability to lead or empower himself or other people. Because it's his arm. Now, if he's like picking at his face and picking zits versus, picking at the part of his arm where the public and the private meet, and he's picking at himself back here. It's all about leadership, not feeling like he can step up to or into the role that's needed. Because when we have stuff going on with our upper arm, it has to do with whether or not we feel like we can lift others. So even with men, because you've seen men that have wings, they tend to also have, I call them moobs, man boobs, because they have stepped into the nurturer role rather than the builder upper. And they're stuck in feminine energy, and they usually have really bossy, needy, or bossy, whiny, controlling wives. And if you look at the wife is very like, duh, 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 and the husband is just kind of like, yes, dear. He's lost his ability to lift others, and it shows up in his bicep. And because he's become the more nurturer, he'll start to grow breasts. And two parts to that. And I didn't talk about that. Oh, someone asked me that question on the breast video. What about when men get them? They need more nurturing, or they're stuck in feminine energy and have become the nurturer. Okay, back on arms. You guys, I go everywhere on these videos. Bless your hearts for continuing to show up, because I am all over the place. Because I have these trains of thoughts and I have to go there because someone asked a question. Okay, so back to arms. I want to talk about the elbow as well. Your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, all of your knuckles, those are all joints. Duh, right? Okay, well, joints have more than one meaning to them. So a joint is all about flexibility, regardless of where it is on the body. It's about flexibility. But your joints also connect two body parts together. So when things are going on with that connection, if they are someone who is trying to progress, I don't look so much at if they're stiff and sore, that's a flexibility issue. What are you being so stubborn about? But if it's an aching, if it is a burning, the wrist is your connection between your ability to lift yourself and your creations, because your hands are all about creations. So your wrist is when you are feeling disconnected from your creations, or you're creating things that don't lift you anymore. They don't inspire you. You used to love doing portraits, and you have so many portraits that people have commissioned you for that you're falling behind, that you no longer find joy in it. That's going to show up in your wrist, because your creations and your ability to find joy in them is off. Well, if my wrist is stiff, I can't do that anymore, and I can rest from it. Okay. Your elbow. Your elbow is your ability to connect yourself with other people. How are you doing at lifting yourself and lifting others? So for most women, it's not the top part of their elbow that hurts. It's usually the bottom part of their elbow, the part that connects them to lifting themselves, because they spend so much time, so much effort in building everyone else up that they forget to care for themselves. And so the bottom part, it'll start in the elbow, and then they'll kind of have maybe some shooting pain down the bone, and it's where the public self and the private self meet. So you'll have pains along here or on the other side in here. Okay, so then your shoulder, I've talked about shoulders in a previous video, which, P.S. I am putting all of the Facebook videos on a YouTube channel. So after they go live, I am creating a YouTube channel so that they're easier to find. So I will make sure that you guys have access to that link, so that you have access to all of these videos as well. It's just Reflections Inside and Out is the YouTube channel. So I would love if you would go like and subscribe. If you have liked and subscribed, anytime I post, you'll be notified that there's a new video. He picks all over his arms. I've noticed when we're talking at the table, he's picking his upper arm. So that makes sense. Yeah. And okay. So then the other parts with your shoulder. So your shoulders, yes, they're about burdens. They're about responsibilities. They're about shouldering things. The other part of it is that your shoulder is what connects your ability to connect with your torso as a whole. Like if I were to take my entire core, your arms or your shoulder connects your ability to connect with the core of who you are. So a lot of times when people have shoulder problems, they have a lot of toxic relationships. The other things that your arms, so your arms as a whole are about your ability to lift others. They're also about capacity. So in body language, when people talk, if they have little T-Rex arms, have you guys ever watched someone and they talk like this and their elbows never leave? Versus someone who they have these really big gestures, and no matter what they do, it's really big and it's out there. Small capacity, I'm keeping everything close. I'm usually probably hiding something, which is my lack of self-esteem. Versus I will allow you to see through me. I have nothing to hide. I have a large capacity to help others. Now, don't overthink this. I have this little itty bitty screen, and so sometimes when I talk, I'm keeping my hands here. But if someone's on a stage and they're talking like this, or you're in a group of people and they're not crowded and they're talking like this, versus I'm trying to keep my hands in the frame of the screen. Don't overthink this. So if you have people standing right next to you and you find yourself talking close, versus I keep hitting the people next to me because I'm talking so big. But it's capacity, it's your ability to connect, it's your ability to lift others. Wrists are your connection to your creations and whether or not they bring you joy. Elbows are your connection between yourself and others. Shoulders are your connection between capacity and connection with your core. So when you have shoulder problems, it could be too many burdens, but usually people take on too many burdens because they have toxic relationships or really crappy boundaries. Which boundaries and safety are what, for those of you that are in the Year of You journey or considering joining that year-long membership program, we are talking all about boundaries and safety through all of November. So I'm really excited about that. Other things with the arm. Tattoos. There's a reason I chose tattoos for the arm, because I know so many people that have a tattoo right here, or they have an armband, or they have a full sleeve. Now, before I get misunderstood, I don't really care if you have a tattoo. That is 100% you expressing yourself in whatever way. I am far more interested on where the tattoo is than what it is, because tattoos serve one of two purposes. They are permanently altering or covering up something, or they are showing it off and enhancing it. So when I see someone who has a tattoo, I know what was happening in that instance in their life. So like when I see people that have tattoos across the bottom of their back, and I will ask, did you get that in your early 20s? Yeah, how did you know? Well, you got it across the bottom of your back because you were having identity issues, you were having sexual issues, meaning that you weren't having good experiences with intimacy, and you were having money issues. So especially women will get tattoos across their lower back at the time in their life when they feel the lowest about themselves financially, sexually, and just in whether or not they feel like they have value. So they'll cover that portion of themselves up. So when people cover up the top part of their arm, a lot of times they have been in a situation where they have had too many responsibilities for other people, and they have not felt like they have done it justice. So a lot of military people, especially those who are commanding officers, will get a tattoo up here on their forearm, and it will be insignia, it will be, and if it's more of a shield, they want to protect other people. And if you ask them their story, they were usually in a troop or something that someone got killed, or they were the only survivor. The larger the tattoo, the more people they were trying to save and felt like they didn't do it. They didn't save them. They didn't do what they thought they could. So they're going to now shield that part of them, especially if it is on the right side, because your right side is masculine and your left side is feminine. So when people have tattoos on their right or on their left side, they are hiding or shielding things in their feminine. When they have tattoos on their right side, they're shielding or masking things in their masculine energy. Let's see. I once saw a man's forearm on the public side. I was drawn to it because it was the preamble to the Constitution. Okay, so publicly, that's something he stands for. However, he's also hiding who he publicly is. That's why the hair just wasn't enough of a protection. When I see people that have banded arm tattoos, they feel bound to help other people, almost that it's a chain. Or so you see a lot of tribal tattoos. They feel bound and connected to their tribe or their culture. When people have an entire sleeve, they are trying to protect their ability to lift themselves or lift others in that energy. So whether it's masculine or feminine. So when I see people in both arms, are shoulder to wrist sleeves, I know that this is a person who has had deep hurt. They do not feel confident in their ability to lift others. They feel like leadership is a burden that they must bear, and they're willing to step up for it, but they need added protection because they don't trust other people. And here's the thing, because tattoos are permanent, you may have felt that way as a 32-year-old, but you still have your full sleeve as a 65-year-old. So you may have learned the skills that nullify the tattoo, but it tells me that at one point in your life, I knew you doubted your ability to lead. And I can either celebrate with you that you overcome that, or I can train you how to feel confident that you can now lead other people. Michelle said, what does it mean if it is on the inside of the forearm? So that is shielding your private self. So relationship stuff, whether it's on the masculine side or the feminine side, whether or not they feel like they need more protection in that area. But that's your private self. A lot of people who have had trauma will get tattoos on the inside. So like a wrist tattoo is someone who feels like they need to guard their creations. I'm trying to think all the different connection points on the arm. Those are the main ones. So self. So if you don't feel like if you have a 24/7 mean girl in your head, you're more likely to get a tattoo down here on your ability to lift yourself. If you feel like you have let other people down, then you're going to get a tattoo up here on your forearm because that's your ability to lift others. So if you are wondering about other parts of the body with tattoo, and I've already done a video on it, like with shoulders, when people get stuff on their shoulder blade, your shoulder blade is where we hold betrayal. It's where our shoulder blade is literally there to protect our vital organs. It's not just for flexibility and mobility. It's a shield. So if you've been betrayed or had a deep, deep heartbreak, you're going to get something on your back or over your breast. Where the tattoo is tells me more than what the tattoo is. And I think that's beautiful. And the reason I share this is because there are so many people who are hiding. And I don't want you to have to feel like you have to hide anymore. Your body is amazing. You as a person are amazing. Stop hiding who you really are and allow yourself to see yourself as a leader. To recognize that I'm always taking people under my wing, and so now I have wings. Recognize that about yourself and evaluate. Because body mapping, just because you have been mapped a certain way, doesn't mean that you are this way. It means now you can decide, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? Okay, I realize that I have blue eyes, and so I see details. So I'm more likely to be nitpicky. That doesn't give me permission to go in someone's house and be rude about the cleanliness of it. It means I may notice something that their small brown eyes didn't notice. And I can't fault them for that or judge them for that. I can just notice it and say, interesting. Let's see, fascinating. My dad got a tattoo on his upper arm of my mom's name. They divorced because he cheated on her. And he did not ever feel like he deserved that relationship. He never met up to her expectations. I know many with tattoos in various places, and it totally makes sense. Yeah. And Let's see. I know people who put a religious symbol there. Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people who put religious symbols on their body, they want the constant reminder to be better, and yet they need a religious shield, meaning they know that they need that for added protection. But they're also feeling like, I will never live up, especially if it's on the arms. I'll never live up. Because your arms are really easy to put up. And so a lot of times when we're feeling like I won't live up to that, it shows up in our arms. Arms are so amazing. Arms are all about your capacity to just capacity. How much can you hold? How much can you love? The bigger the motions, the bigger the capacity. They help you know about your connections between yourself and others, your connections between your creations. And P.S., kids are creations. So if I have someone who's having problems with the back of their hand and their upper arm, I know they're having problems with a personal relationship, because with your hands, and I'll do hands on another video because there's a lot to hands, but on hands, this is the intimate side. This is the working side. Where do you get calluses? You can touch palm to palm with someone and it's not usually awkward, but if someone brushes the back of your hand, you're like, what are you doing? The back of your hand is the intimate side of your hand. The palm of your hand is the public side. And I know that's weird because your arm is the exact opposite, literally at the wrist. This becomes private and this is public. But think about when you're holding someone's hand and they rub the back of your hand, it's a sign of affection, of deep affection. You don't usually rub inside someone's palm because you don't usually rub the people you work with. You can rub shoulders, which means you're passing your responsibility onto them, or vice versa. But it's so interesting to me because so many of the colloquialisms, so many of the sayings that we have in our slang actually come from the meanings of the body part. And so when you hear things like rubbing shoulders, who are you rubbing shoulders with? Who are you sharing responsibility with? It's beautiful. And I try to point those out because it helps you remember the meanings. So I want to ask you guys to look for the next little while about how you're treating your arms. If every time you look at your arm, all you see is this extra wing, then start asking yourself, why am I taking so many people under my wing? And do I actually have the ability to lift them once they're there? My husband has painful bumps all down his forearm. That means, yep, that's public life. And so because they're painful, who is getting under his skin? Because bumps don't usually start at the surface. They usually start under the skin and come up. So who in your husband's public self is getting under his skin and affecting his ability to feel like he as a person is good? Do you see? Okay, are you guys starting to learn how this works? It was a bump. Bumps go under the skin. That's why I use the terminology, who is under his skin. Don't overthink this. It's so beautiful. There's so much truth in it, and it doesn't have to be hard. I hit my half-hour mark. I really am trying to stay true to the half hour or less. But I love seeing all of you here. I love that you guys are coming and doing this. I will get the link for the YouTube channel so that you guys can review these videos as often as you want to. You can share them. You can go back when you have a question about them, and you don't have to search through the Facebook feed. I'll always do them live, and then we'll put them on the YouTube channel. We just barely started it this morning, so give me a second. But I so love seeing you all every week. Please continue to join me. I very much love and appreciate you coming and sharing this time with me. And if you have more questions, then post them in the comments. Tag my names to make sure that it shows up in my notifications. And as soon as I get the link for the YouTube channel, like it, subscribe, share, and I love you. Thank you so much for coming today.